welcome to this Creative Critical Reflection podcast. Today I'll be speaking with the creator of Behind You about the ideas behind their film, how it was made, and how it would connect with audience as a real media product. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to speaking about my project and explaining the choices I made throughout the process. How does your product use or challenge conventions of its genre? My product, it's a thriller short film, so it uses many conventions that are common within the thriller genre. For example, I use suspense, tension, mystery, dark lighting, and the feeling that danger could happen at any moment. These conventions are important because they help keep the audience interested while creating fear and uncertainty. I also use camera shots such as over the shoulder angles and tracking shots to make it feel like the main character is being watched or even followed. This really helps pace the audience into the scene and builds tension naturally. Interesting. Out of all the genres, why did you choose the thriller genre? I chose the thriller genre because it's very effective at creating emotion through suspense. I like the idea of making viewers feel nervous and curious through visual, sound, and editing, rather than having to rely heavily on dialogue. Did your product challenge any conventions? Yes, definitely 100%. Many thriller films use dramatic or isolated locations such as forests, abandoned buildings, or dark alleyways. But instead, I use a normal public setting, which was a store parking lot. I think this challenges conventions because it makes the danger feel more realistic. It shows that suspense can happen in everyday places people recognize. This guy knows what he's doing. How does your product represent social groups or issues? Yeah, for sure. My product mainly represents teenagers and young adults because the main character is around that age. This helps the target audience relate to the character and it feels more connected to the story. It also explores real issues such as personal safety, stalking, and being alone at night. These are genuine concerns many people have, so including them gives the film more realism and meaning. Moving on, how does your product engage with audiences? My product engages audience mainly through suspense and tension. From early on, viewers could tell something is not right, which creates curiosity and makes them want to keep watching. The audience wants to know whether the main character is in danger and what will happen next. Also, I use pacing and editing to keep the film interesting. Shorter cuts, changing camera angles, they all help maintain attention and build pressure as the scene develops. Okay. Now, exactly who would be the target audience for your product? The main target audience I was going for is teenagers and young adults, especially people who enjoy thriller or horror style content. Younger audiences often enjoy that fast-paced, suspenseful media, especially online short-form content, so my product would appeal to them. Now, I'm sure the viewers here want to know, how would your product be distributed as a real media text? My product would most likely be distributed online through platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all those streaming sites. Online platforms will be the most realistic option because, they're low cost and they allow creators to reach a large audience quickly. Okay. And now, how exactly would you plan on promoting it? Ooh, that's a good question. I promote it mainly through teaser clips, short trailers, posters, and social media posts. Suspenseful scenes could be used as previews, to attract some attention and make viewers curious enough to watch the full thing. Okay. Now, in your words, why is online distribution the best option? In my opinion, online distribution is the best option because it matches the habits of the target audience. Most younger viewers consume content digitally, especially through phones and social media. So releasing it online would be the most effective and realistic method. Perfect. No, I love these answers so far. And now, here is the final question. How would you summarize your product? I've gotta leave the best for last. My product definitely engages audiences through suspense, curiosity, and even pacing. It would be distributed online through digital platforms, promoted through social media, just so it could reach the intended young audience. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this Creative Critical Reflection podcast. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights into the production process of explaining the creative decisions behind your product. Thank you for having me. It was a good opportunity to reflect on the work I produced and the skills I developed for the project. Now I'm going to talk about questions 3 and 4 for my creative critical reflection. For these questions, I'll be explaining how my skills developed throughout making my thriller opening and how I use different technologies during the production process. One major way my skills developed in this project was camera work. At the start, I didn't really think about angles or framing that much. But while making my thriller opening, I learned how different shots can create tension and suspense. For example, I used tracking shots while the victim was walking to the car, which helped make the audience feel like they were following him. I also used point of view shots to make viewers feel involved in the scene. Another skill I improved was editing. At first, I only knew basic cuts, but during this project, I learned how pacing can affect mood. I used quicker cuts in tense moments, and slower shots earlier on to build suspense. I also developed my planning skills. I had to think about locations, timings, props, costumes, and how each scene would connect together. This helped me become way more organized. Finally, I improved my understanding of genre conventions. I learned how thriller films use mystery, tension, dark settings, and limited information to keep audiences engaged. I applied these ideas in my own product. So overall, this project really helped me improve creativity, technicality, and in planning. To create my project, I used a range of technologies including software, hardware, and online tools. For hardware, I mainly used my phone camera to record scenes. This was useful because it was portable, easy to use, and had good enough quality for filming. I also used basic lighting from natural light and indoor lights depending on the scene. For software, I used editing programs to put clips together, trim scenes, add transitions, sound effects, and control pacing. Editing software was important because it helped turn raw footage into a final thriller opening. I also used online technologies for research and planning. I watched thriller openings online to study conventions such as suspense, camera angles, and sound. This helped inspire my own ideas. I used online tools to communicate, organize ideas, and gather feedback during production. This allowed me to improve my project after reviewing what worked well and what could be stronger. Technology was extremely important because without it, I would not have been able to plan, film, edit, or present my final media project. And so, in conclusion, this project helped me develop many media skills while also showing how important technology is in modern film production. Thank you for watching my creative critical reflection.